What's up? Oh, we got everybody on here. Okay, what's going on?
What's up, man? All right, cool. Well, we're on. So I think we're just waiting for JR. JR here?
I'm here.
JR's here, looking like an FBI poster. It's so dark. Kevin, are you here? We will wait for Kevin shortly, but we'll kick it off. Looks like we have more and more people kind of funneling in. Thanks to everyone again for coming out to this month's fireside chat. We're going to be going over resumes tonight, obviously, but really we're really excited. Every month we've been doing this, and we continue to do this every single month, rotating between career fields and basic career skills that we as vets don't.
I was just mentioning there's like muted.
So
I was just listening on this. And also there's like
Alexander. All right. All right. If everyone just make sure you stay muted, unless you're asking a question. Anyway, we don't get a lot of these skills, but you didn't come here to hear me. Obviously, I'm Wyatt. I run the page with Kyle, and right now I'm living in San Diego County, working in a chief of staff role at a private equity portfolio company, doing the very sexy work of utility submetering and billing. Tonight, though, we have people whose careers and whose insights are a lot more interesting than mine. First, we'll welcome Sonny, who's many people probably know from LinkedIn, but he's just as great in real life as he is on LinkedIn. JR Butler, founder of Shift Group, JP Snyder, the Island King out in Hawaii, and Kevin, are you here? Kevin Pryor, is he here yet?
I am here, yeah.
There's Kevin. All right.
Yep.
So Kevin's a secret agent man who's now head of talent at VP of talent at Gavini in defense tech, but before that has done talent across tech companies, including Amazon for a while. But interesting spin on it was Amazon in Europe, where apparently it's not a sweatshop and they let you like play video games and stuff at work. So we'll have to hear from that. But we'll let the hosts introduce themselves. We'll start. Why don't we start with JR, and then we'll go JP, Kevin, and then finish up with Sonny.
Thank you, Wyatt. Nice to meet everybody. Apologize for my setting. I'm usually in the office, but I just had a newborn baby about 2 weeks ago. So I'm working from home. That's also why I'm a little scruffier than usual, Wyatt, and the FBI lighting. So background, guys, I was born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts, oldest of three boys. My father's a Hall of Fame high school and junior hockey coach. I played Division I hockey, played a little bit after. Both my brothers did the same. Struggled with the transition. Landed, per my kind of bio that Wyatt shared with everyone, landed in the tech industry because I was a sociology major with a minor in art history and sign language. And I entered the job market in 2008. So the only thing I could do was cold call. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Spent 17 years in the space. Ultimately became a chief revenue officer through the VP of sales function. Was part of a company build from less than 15 people to over 1,000, from less than $1 million to over $200 million in revenue. We were acquired by IBM for $2 billion. Then I was a CRO at another software company. And then I started Shift Group a little over 3 years ago, initially to help folks like me that play sports at a high level transition. But where I'm from in Massachusetts, the Worcester area, I had a lot of friends that served in the military. And, in our 20s, in our mid 20s, late 20s, when we were all retiring, there was a lot of shared challenges that we had. So about 6 months into the business, we added veteran support as well. And basically, our business is simple. We help folks that wore a uniform at a high level successfully transition into corporate America. We started in business development and revenue generation. We placed over 3,000 athletes and veterans in 3 years at 450 hiring partners. Plus, our training is free, so we have a lot of veterans and athletes that come through our program and use what we teach to go and apply and be successful at companies on their own, which we encourage. And I'm excited to talk today because I have some pretty strong feelings about resumes. I've looked at lots. I've hired probably over 3,000 sales reps in my career. And I'm really excited to have this discussion. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, those that are interested, Shift is a very legit group. We've been approached by a lot of people to partner with Sitreps. Shift is one of the few that incentives are all aligned. They have successfully placed people into solid jobs. So we've seen it work, and we're going to continue to work with them. JP, next.
Sure. Thanks, Wyatt. Thanks everybody for being here. My name is JP Snyder. Currently the lead for Marine Forces Pacific at a defense tech startup called OneBrief. Before that, spent 5 years at a AI startup called Zero Eyes, which did weapon detection software. So grew that company from seed through Series B. That's where I met Sonny and a lot of the crew here. And similar to JR, did a lot of hiring, saw a lot of really good and a lot of really bad resumes. I also have very strong feelings about resumes. Really excited to be here. And I am in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Right. Kevin.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm also extremely excited to do this. This is great. I appreciate you guys inviting me. So I'm Kevin Pryor. I'm the VP of Talent Acquisition at Govini, which is a defense tech startup. Well, not really a startup, but we act like a startup. Right outside of Washington, D.C. Before that, bounced around to some startups. I did 7 years with Amazon, as Wyatt pointed out, in Europe and in Seattle. And then before that, I did 10 years in and around the CIA as a Govy and as a contractor. So I too had to do the pivot out of public sector or public sector atmosphere into commercial when I was in Seattle about maybe 10, 12 years ago. So I feel the pain, and I know how frustrating it can be to make that translation and that jump. So I always like to help people where I can reach back into what you've done and help you get beyond where you've been. I didn't mean it to make it sound that pithy, but that's how it came across. So there you go.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Last but not least, Sonny. Oh, I think you're on mute, Sonny.
I'm here running my fucking sock like an idiot and not coming through. My name's Sonny Tai, former enlisted Marine, a Marine officer, founder of a company called Actuate, VC backed. Used to compete with JP's company Zero Rise, but we kind of pivoted, so we no longer do, and we're all friends now. Probably don't have as strong feelings about resumes as the other gentleman here. I think a resume is binary, like either passes or it doesn't. But we're taught a lot of tricks of the trade while going through business school a few years ago, and I've also had a lot of people come and ask me for help on their resume. I've offered help on resumes, usually through a veteran community, usually from the veteran community. And over the past like 2 or 3 years or so, I've gotten like 7 or 8 people hired as somebody who doesn't do it for a living. So hopefully I can share some best practices and be somewhat useful in this call.
Great. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for sharing some of that. What we'll do tonight is just kind of jump through a few questions for the panel, and then I think it's probably best that we learn through actually looking at some resumes. We have some resumes that Max and myself, Max also helps Kyle and I out at Sitreps. He's here on the call. We have seen thousands of resumes in the last year and a half. For those that aren't aware, one thing that we do at Sitreps is act as a recruiting agency for different companies, helping find veterans for defense tech, mostly defense tech or private equity operations companies. We help them find the talent that they need. We vet that talent and we deliver that talent, as basically a top of funnel management. In that role, we see a lot of resumes because we're trying to make sure that people like Kevin are not flooded with thousands of resumes that quite frankly just wouldn't pass muster. In that time, we've seen everything you could imagine. We'll share some of the the resumes tonight. The names and the places have been redacted, so there is really no way you'd be able to figure out who these resumes are. And then we'll share a few. Obviously, I could not roast other people without also putting up my own resume, so I'll give the panel a chance to look at mine. It was the resume that got me into Wharton, so someone must have thought that it was all right. But happy to take some fire on myself, and then I have a couple others that I thought were quality. But I'll start out with you, Sonny, because I think you said something that was pretty interesting. We think so much about resumes, and we get so many resumes coming through us that are like 6 pages, right, that tell a narrative. But you basically said that it's binary. So I'll start out by asking everyone, starting with Sonny, what is the purpose of a resume?
I mean, I think the purpose of a resume is to get an interview, right? It's pretty straightforward. We do, I don't want to say a lot of hiring, but we do hiring from time to time. I run a relatively modest 40 employee startup. And when we post a role nowadays, it's not uncommon for us to get several hundred up to 1,000 plus applications in a span of a few days. And that means that when we click through resumes, a lot of times we don't spend more than 1 or 2 seconds looking at each resume. It's either like it's a left swipe or right swipe, basically, right? The times that it's a right swipe, that's when we'll kind of dig a little bit more into the bullet points of a resume, look at your educational work experiences, and decide whether we want to reach out and talk to you. But yeah, the objective of putting a resume together definitely is to catch someone's attention. And if you're making like a lot of common mistakes, like why I mentioned, like if you have a 6-page resume, even a 2-page resume, right? A lot of times, like poorly formatted long resumes, they just get passed automatically, even if your experiences might be unbelievable, right? So these are kind of some of the things that you just want to avoid, so you don't shoot yourself in the foot before you're even in the game.
Thanks. JP, we'll go to you next.
Yeah, I'm gonna frame it a little differently. I think like you got to think of a resume like a first date. Like, what's the point of the first date, right? It's like to get to the next date. You're not trying to like woo the person on the first date. You're trying to like get to the next objective, right? So I think a lot of people optimize for the wrong thing. I think that they're trying to like win the war of getting the job with the resume, and it's like the point of the resume is not to get the job. The point of the resume is to get someone, a physical human being, to talk to you, and then you can go sort of win the war. That's what I'll sort of say there as far as like purpose of the resume. And similarly, right, like having gone through, so at Zero Eyes, I ran basically the equivalent of like a 911 call center. And our sort of main hiring criteria was transitioning E3s to O5. So having seen thousands of those resumes, if it was longer than a page, I literally didn't even read it. I just like Sonny said, I left swiped it into the do not interview bin. So you get 1 page.
Kevin.
Yeah, no, I mean, in terms of the purpose, there's nothing else I can add. It's to get an interview, right? But I like to explain it a little bit more operationally from the point of view of the recruiter, which is your average recruiter has, if they're looking at resumes, has a lot to get through. To the point earlier made about 700 to 1,000 resumes. Absolutely, like, so you got to think the person on the other end of what you're sending maybe has 30 to 45 seconds to read your resume before they either get bored, get distracted, or just need to make some sort of decision. And so what you want on your resume has got to be quick, it's got to be concise, it's got to be mostly ahead of the middle of the page, so somewhere between the top and the middle. And that's literally what you're dealing with, especially in these days where AI is dumping thousands of resumes that have no business being in your ATS. That's what you're competing with. So you've got to make it, it doesn't have to be flashy, but you have to say what you need to say to get to the next step quickly.
JR.
You sorry, we lost internet at my house, so I'm on my phone. I want to preface what I'm about to say with what I meant by I have a strong feeling about resumes. I think resumes are fucking stupid. I think it's 2025 and we have more technology in our pocket than it took to get to the moon. And we still make the biggest decision we make as a business, which is the people that you hire based off somebody's ability to structure a Microsoft Word document. And I think that's so fucking stupid. I also think that the fact of the matter is like in today's day and age, you have AI resume writers that are, to Kevin's point, feeding into AI resume readers. So you literally have AI evaluating AI. And I think it's stupid. And I think the reason the resume exists, to answer the question, is so that you can get to you can get an interview. But I think if you're relying on submitting your application into Sonny's company or Kevin's company or JP's company, and hoping that they see it and that they like it and that you get an interview, you've already lost. So full stop. Like that's and I'll kind of elaborate on like my perspective and what the right way to do it is. But the reality is because it's a standard practice, this type of stuff that we're going to talk about today is important. But I just wanted to preface everything I'm about to say with the fact that I think resumes are absolutely the dumbest thing ever nowadays. So just wanted to preface everything I'm going to say with that, Wyatt.
No, I love it. I also think that it's interesting. I mean, this is why we bring you in. You guys don't use resumes at Shift.
Correct.
You forbid your hiring partners from using them.
Yeah, they're not allowed to look at a resume until they watch 3 videos of our candidate. Full stop.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I've said this. We've have, like I said, we have roles that we will fill that literally have hundreds of applications. As much as I would like to say that I could get through hundreds, like you miss people, right? It's amazing how far someone DMing me and just saying, "Hey, I applied for this role. It looks great. Could you consider me?" And that at least will let me go look at their resume and show me like this person has, something. I mean, I even saw someone recently on LinkedIn that was like, "You should use Zoom Info and be calling founders. Like 30% will get really pissed that you called, but like 10%, I mean, it's sales, right? 10% will be fine and it'll get it looked at. But the sad reality, we still have, especially if you're looking to apply for business school, if you're looking to apply for a job, we still have these artifacts. One interesting thing to think about for vets get very concerned, and I'm sure there's a lot of people here. How do we turn our resumes into a format that a civilian will understand? Because I can tell you, as much as Kevin is someone that works in defense tech, JP is someone that's been in the military, most of your hiring managers are not people that have a clue about what the military means. And as impressive as it is for you to tell someone, that you were the #1 PL in the brigade LFX, right? Like doesn't mean anything to anyone else, right? Or that you got top locked, like most stuff that we see. But we also see the other problem where a lot of vets will over civilianize and they'll say weird things like that they were the senior vice president. And I'll look at it and I'm like, I like texted to Max. I'm like, what did this guy do? And he like looks and he's like, I think that he was an XO in an infantry unit, but he calls himself the senior vice president of like operations. So question for the panel, how do you appropriately balance civilianizing your resume? So making it understandable while not sounding ridiculous by, we make memes about it, but we do see people that call themselves the CEO and they in fact were a company commander. I've seen that multiple times. We'll see some later. We'll start with JP. What would you say?
I'll start with like a bit of an anecdote. So I was a logistics officer in the Marine Corps, so like truck guy. So I need like pictures and numbered steps to make things make sense for me. But similarly, I had a boss who I won't name, but in 05, Lieutenant Colonel, and when he transitioned, he put CEO in parentheses, Fortune 100 equivalent to his work experience. And I shot him a note because we had a bit of a rapport, and I was like, hey man, just so you know, us veterans know when you apply, you are basically the general manager of a Jiffy Lube. So you just got to be careful about what you say. So when it comes to translating, I think my first sort of tip to the people in the audience would be find someone whose job that you want, and then have them help you translate your experiences, because they will have sort of the Venn diagram, like the middle portion of that Venn diagram. They'll be able to help you translate and make sure that A, you don't immediately get left swiped, and B, can speak to some of the skills or the experiences that you have that will lead to, you know, delivering benefit to the business in the future, because that's what you're trying to translate, right? Like, my previous experiences will allow me to do X, Y, or Z thing for your company. So that's sort of my first thought.
Yeah, Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that I think trying to translate it at the verbal level is tough, or the written level, like he just said. But I think that numbers translate, numbers of people you've managed or you know, led, budgets you may have held, anything where it's demonstrable from a numbers standpoint. Sorry, a whole bunch of noise just came through my AirPods. I apologize. Also, things that anytime you've led change, managed change, dealt with change, and what that change was, and how it impacted the organization that you were with previously, like all of that stuff translates. So think about stuff that you're proud of, that you've done, and try to put it in that type of framework. And then also, you know, again, like, talk about the stuff that you've led, or the people that you've led, and put that into numeric format. And that does help. That gives someone who doesn't know anything about the military at least something to go on if they're reading through your resume.
Sonny, what do you think?
All right. I want to go back, like, rewind about 10 minutes or so when I think JR was mentioning that resumes are stupid and useless. It's not that I disagree with you, but it's that because it's stupid and useless, and because it's such a low bar, like, it's imperative that you don't fuck it up, right? Because so many people do. All of us who do hiring, we get like I said, we get hundreds of thousands of applicants, and 70% of resumes that we get are shitty. So despite the fact that, like, it's a really, really, really low bar, and that there's so many AI tools that you can use that can actually make a resume pretty damn good, like, just clearing that bar is like 70% of battle. Like, you're in a 70th percentile just clearing that bar. It's like being on a dating app and, like, not sending a dick pic, right? That's like, just by not doing that, you already outperform 70% of other dudes. So I just want to make that clear, and that's why this is important. As for how to civilianize your resume, well, geez, like, I might have slight disagreements with what Wyatt said. Like, if you're a number one platoon commander or number one company commander or whatever, and you've got receipts, like, say it. I think a lot of organizations hire veterans, not necessarily because they have directly transferable technical skills, unless you're like a pilot and you're going to go fly for Delta or something like that, or if you manage a supply warehouse and you can go work for Amazon, like, that's a lot more translatable. But I think in a lot of cases, it's not super translatable. So I think that organizations a lot of times hire veterans for the intangibles. And outperforming your peers is an intangible. It kind of shows that you bloom where you're planted. It kind of shows that you bring resilience and leadership to the table. It shows that you bring competitiveness, that you want to be the best of the best. So somebody kind of, I forgot who it was, but brought something up here about, like, numbers, right? Like, if your numbers are good, definitely speak in numbers, right? Wherever you outperformed your peers, like, you should brag about that in your resume as much as possible. Even if it's in something like pretty trivial. I mean, I haven't applied for a job in over 7 years because I've been a founder, but I used to put my TBS ranking in my resume. It sounds retarded, but, like, hey, if I was top 10% at TBS, it shows that, hey, I'm competitive, and I took a course really seriously, and I performed everybody else, and I want potential employers to know that. So.
Yeah, completely agree. And just to clarify, do not mean that you should not put your ranking at all. Just that you should make sure that, you know, instead of saying BDE LFX, you know, figuring out a way to say, you know, yearly competitive exercise. But absolutely what Sonny says. figure out a way to quantify as much as you possibly can. JR, I'll jump to you before we go to the next one.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything everyone said so far. And you know, Sonny, don't take my disdain for the ancient art of resumes as discounting the importance of them, because unfortunately they are still important. And you're right, like the bar is low. Don't F it up. Um, you know, I think the number one thing, guys, is like keep it simple, stupid, right? Like don't overthink it. Don't lie, right? Don't say you were the CEO. Like your example, Wyatt, which is what I think you were trying to get at, right? Like you got to tell the truth, and you've got to translate whatever you did in the military, using metrics, using more plain, like, you know, sixth grade level English language to explain what you did and why it's relevant to the person that's going to read it for the role that you're applying to, right? Because what I will say is we see a lot of military resumes, and there's a lot of fluff under a description of a title, and this person, maybe they want to do sales, and there's stuff in there that has nothing to do with sales. Like, it's great that you did that stuff, but you shouldn't include that part of the description underneath it, right? If you want to keep it simple and you want to make, and you know what role you're applying to, and this is, again, this is why the, you know, hope isn't a strategy. Like sending one resume to 100 different jobs, you're already losing. So don't do that, right? Like find a job that you like, find a way to connect into the company, reach out to the person that you think is the hiring manager, but on your resume, have your resume reflect the skills, the experiences, the metrics that are going to be relevant for that specific role at that specific company. And there is ways to translate it. I think it was JP that said it best, like finding someone that has the role and being like, hey, this is what I did in the military. This is the type of job I want to do what you're doing. How should I describe what I did in the military so that somebody that hires for your role would understand it? That would be critical for, and again, integrity matters. Don't lie. Don't ever lie on a resume.
Yeah, 100%. They'll ask, I mean, the other way that resumes are often used is just as a, this is what I do at my job, is when we have interviews, my boss will be like, hey, can you join me for this interview? And he'll hand me the resume 10 minutes before, and I look at it for like 5 minutes, and I'm like, all right, here's my script, right? You go in and you literally just ask them the questions. If you've lied, and we've had people, JR will laugh about this, I have never interviewed a sales candidate who didn't hit 140% of quota. Some of them do, but the ones that don't, once you start asking, okay, can you tell me 5 of the deals that you closed last quarter? And they can name 2, and the other ones are like, well, there was a few others, I just do so many. And you're like, all right, tell me the obstacles you faced, right? It breaks down fast. And it's the same thing with any military. Like, if you apply for MBA programs, if you apply for jobs at your MBA, people will ask you about your resume bullets, and you will not be able to hide from those. So we're just going to jump in and start looking at some of these resumes we won't spend too much time on because they're really, really bad. But I want to hear everyone's reactions to some of these. These are all resumes that we've gotten for roles that are quite high paying and deserve some attention. Like Sonny said, it's the lowest bar. Like I would swipe. The only reason I didn't look at these resumes for 10 seconds and leave is because they were so bad I had to forward them to people. Redacted, obviously. I don't like, making fun of people, but some of these people make it too easy. So again, none of these names are real. Companies have been changed, but the substance 100% still the same. So can everyone see this one?
Yep.
Here's the first one. Yes, he put his picture at the top. Kevin, what's your first reaction?
I don't need a picture, number one, but number two, I hear what this guy's saying, like with his MBA and where it came from theoretically, but if you have an MBA, we need to know actually where it came from, right? Like Some of us have to look at schools. Some of us have to gauge schools and where they came from. So this is, while amusing, not helpful at all in your case, and it doesn't make me want to forward it on at all, because when you get into like resume review mode, you're like, I got to hit these 5 or 6 check marks. If they're not there, I'm moving on. And right away, it seems like you're maybe not taking my process seriously, and I'm not inclined to keep reading. So you've lost me in the first, 2 inches of your resume. It's not going to end well for you at this point.
Hey, is that real? He actually said school of experience, or did you guys
Yeah,
change?
no, that's real. No, that's 100% real. I didn't change that. I would, if it was a real school, and I did change some people's schools from Indiana to Illinois. That's real. That is 100% what he put. So
Epic.
what's your reaction, Sonny? What do you think? You've been a CEO.
Yeah, only put a photo if you're hot. If you're not, then don't. I'm just kidding. But no, I mean, yeah, I don't know if the CEO means that he was.
You
This is just impossible to read, right? It's like walls of text. It's like walls and walls and walls of text. Oh my goodness. Yeah, like nobody's gonna read this shit. Nobody's gonna read this. It's way too much. Now, this guy's like, and you guys might disagree with me, but this guy is an older candidate. I looked at experience. It looks like there's experiences back from like the 1990s. I might argue that it might be okay to have a 2-page resume if you're really, really experienced and you're senior. But this is way too much overkill. And yeah, these core competencies, like they should be coming through in actual bullet points and not just dumped here as a bunch of like word salad.
I will highlight that in addition to doing SBA loan structuring, team building, he also knows all aspects of construction, mind you. Everything. Everything there is to know. JR, what do you think of this resume? What are some points?
Yeah, I mean, it's awful. I like it all goes back to the point I made earlier, guys. Like he needs to, like, a couple of these bullets might be relevant for a job that he's applying to, but like I guarantee that there is not a job where he needs to know nutraceuticals, which, hand up, I don't know what the hell those are, as well as ECU, computerized ECU calibration. Like, there's no world where both of those things should be on the same piece of paper ever. So, like, and then I went through these earlier. He also has his personal interests on there, like on like the 4th or 5th page, which is crazy. There's just way too much here. Sonny hit the nail on the head. Like, this maybe 2 pages because he's an older, more experienced candidate, but he's absolutely added stuff that nobody is ever going to read that is absolutely irrelevant for 9 out of 10 jobs he's going to apply to.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Did he make his case like why me on the bottom there?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, I
Yes,
didn't.
you guys did do improper redaction.
I know.
There.
I didn't expect his name to appear that far down. But yeah, he made the case for himself. So, someone might have seen that, briefly. So sorry to this man, but you kind of did it to yourself at this
He
point.
deserves it. He deserves it.
When you put that you completely rebuilt the 10,000 square foot, to me, that just says, I want you to know that my house is 10,000 square feet, right? Like that's all it means to me. Last one, JP, last thoughts before we move on to the next one.
No, it's bad. It's bad. It's very bad. Let's move on.
Yeah, he has a Lamborghini, by the way, if you see that. Okay, great. Here's another one. Not as bad. It's bulletized, so we're moving in the right direction. But JP, we'll start with you on this one. What's your feeling here?
Bad, very bad. But if you want to, so yeah, scroll. I mean, we can start education wherever you want to start, but like, so just based on available real estate, the first thing that jumps out to me is his name is huge. It's too big. I don't.
He did put these shadows here, by the way. That wasn't me adding that in. The shadow is real.
I'm here for the clip art shadows. The name is too big and there's just too much white space, guys. You got to remember, like, keep it simple, stupid. Like, I am the product of public schooling. Like, you get 1 page and you get like 2 or 3 key objectives from your roles. that really highlight why you will succeed in the role that you're applying for, and then you move on. Like one of my former bosses who I really like, he's like, dude, just be brief, be beautiful, and be gone. Whereas like this, I don't even want to really double click into any of this because I'm not interested in it and there's too much of it. This when I look at this excellent safety record, I don't know what to do with that, right? Like there's not enough here to get me engaged, so he's already left swipe in 2 or 3 seconds.
Sonny, what's your take?
I mean, I might talk to him just because he's an Apache pilot. That's pretty cool. But besides that, the shadows are a shit show. References is completely misspelled, which I don't know how you manage to do that with spell check. The text is all misaligned. It's all busted. So it shows poor attention to detail. You kind of half-ass this resume a little bit. And yeah, what you guys should do as well is that if you feel like you have a lot of experiences, the most recent and most relevant ones should be more bullet dense. And the ones that are like 10 years ago, make them just 1 or 2 bullets. Like in this case, this guy was an Apache pilot. That's probably something that's going to be potentially interesting that employers might want to learn more about. It's very unlikely that as employers give a shit about what he did when he was a fucking petroleum specialist, right? Like nothing against that, but it's a much more junior role. It was a long time ago. So that could probably be condensed down to 2 bullets. The margins need to be like this thin and not super, super fat. Yeah, a lot of things that are broken about this that need to be fixed. And I think like 70% of it can just be fixed with a new template. But yeah, there's too much here.
JR, what's your take? Oh,
I think
we
he's
lost
frozen.
JR. Kevin, what's your take?
I gotta say this, like if you scroll back up to the top, the shadow stuff, like you lost me at the shadows. Again, I'm looking at this like I would if I'm sitting down to do resume screening for roles. Like I've got 7 seconds to look at this, and the minute I see something like that, it looks like the font's messed up. I can't pass that to a hiring manager. Like I'm wrong. Clearly, I'm wrong. He did it on purpose, but I can't sit like some of my hiring managers will also trash it because it looks like it's improperly formatted or whatever. And the thing that's killing me about this resume is that he was a helicopter pilot, and we've hired 3 or 4 helicopter pilots at Govini since I've been there. So like it's a skill set we value from like the leadership and the amount of things that you have to do as a helicopter pilot in the military. So this person just lost, an opportunity because of the shadows, which is stupid. I get that part. But unless you're a creative person and you're going for a creative role, don't mess with the font. Don't try to make something flashy on your resume. Like I said, as a recruiter, I've got 7 to 20 seconds to read your resume, and if something looks messed up, I'm going to move on.
100%. All right, we will move. Here's another one.
Immediate reject black. Sorry.
JP, go.
The correct format is typed white 1 page. This Appalachian Trail and this black background, it's auto reject. I will not read a single word.
Sorry.
I'm not as strict about. I agree with you, but not to a point of auto reject. At the very least, this is readable. And there's like 4 lines of bullet points. So if I just skimmed that and in 2 seconds, I kind of felt impressed by some of the things I saw. Like I wouldn't hold it against them necessarily, but it would be a negative otherwise. This isn't as bad as the previous 2, because at least I can kind of in 2 or 3 seconds get a sense. So I probably wouldn't be as strict as JP because of that. But yeah.
Kevin, what's your take?
Well, the black is weird, but I would have probably given it a read. I think what throws me here is that this person had two interesting jobs as in Bangkok and in Paris, and then their city treasurer. So like from a resume perspective, I'm looking at what role did you apply for and what did you want to do? Because I can't connect the dots between what you got on your resume and whatever role you might have wanted me to consider you for. So there's some narrative pieces that they probably could have fixed, but it would be tough to move that forward.
JR, are you back?
Yeah, can you hear me, Wyatt?
Yeah, you're here.
Yeah, I agree with everything everybody just said. I would be a hard no because of the colors. Keep it simple. White, Times New Roman, 12, whatever the standard Microsoft Word structure is. I think if this was in Word, it would actually be pretty decent. The only thing I'll call out is like nobody noticed this. This guy is an Army Ranger, and he only mentions it like once in this kind of summary at the top. Like that's a miss to me. Um, I don't like personal stuff on there, like interests, outdoors, family. Like it's good that you like your family.
You don't
Most
like the
people
emoji,
should.
the heart
Yeah.
eyes.
Yeah, not a huge fan of that. I think I've seen a couple questions in the chat, like, should we mention our military experience? The answer is yes.
Yes.
Much-
Yes.
Like 100% you should, absolutely. Only 1% of the general population serves. You're special. You should call it out. You should own it. And it should not be in one sentence at the very top in a summary in a very distracting format like this gentleman has. I think he has too many proficiencies personally, and soft skills should come out in your bullets. You shouldn't have
Yep.
to say, "I'm a leader" or "I'm good at problem solving" or delegation. If those are true, you need to use your bullet points to call out your soft skills, not a soft skills section. So other than that, it's pretty good.
You don't think that he should
Hey,
mention
sorry, one
any-
thing.
Yeah.
One thing that I noticed about like not excessively civilianizing or experiences, I can't tell if the embassy bullet points or are they like civilian roles, or were you in the military and then you kind
No,
of
they were. I didn't change the title. The title was Senior Manager Operations Coordinator. That's insanely. I like what you say because it's super ambiguous. But
exactly. I didn't know if you were part of like embassy security guard as like
I don't
active,
know.
or if you were in some type of like State Department role. Like I've no idea, right? So keep the titles as they are. Like don't try to mess with them, because this is very confusing.
Yeah, I generally completely agree with that. Yeah, the only thing I changed on this was the locations and the names. Yeah, I also don't know why you'd put. I don't even know what constructivity is. That was like the thing that kept sticking. I don't know what that means. But the other thing that I saw, like, you shouldn't be putting the job description into your resume. Like, you shouldn't be putting, and that's oftentimes what people in the military I feel like get hung up on is they're like, well, I don't have a metric, right? We don't have a revenue, we don't have a P&L. Oftentimes you will have to kind of do a best guess. And there was a guy I know that was talking to me about this, and he's like, look, if you can put it down on your resume and basically like if you could look at your friends in the unit or your platoon sergeant and be like, hey, does this look right? I said that I increased lethality by like 20% because of those changes that we made at the range and like the system that we made. And if you feel like your buddy would be like, yeah, and oftentimes you'll get a reference call to, like, I've had my previous platoon sergeant have a reference call for the job I'm in right now. And my boss was like, hey, is this like, I don't understand this resume completely. Like, does this check out? Platoon sergeant was like, yeah, that checks out, right? It's not going to be a revenue number. You shouldn't put, you shouldn't try to put a revenue number. Don't try to claim that your budget was revenue. But don't put job descriptions. Like, you need to have something more. Okay, next one is this one is like closer to right, but still not quite there. JP, what's your thought on this one?
I get immediate on this one. I get immediately drawn to the negative space on like everything being left justified. But as far as like the content, like you said, right, we're getting better. We're like headed in the right direction. But I really like the XYZ format for a bullet accomplishment. It comes from Google, and it's basically, you know, accomplished X measured by Y by doing Z. So like if anyone in the chat, right, you go to Google, you do like XYZ format Google, it'll tell you exactly how to sort of lay out your accomplishments. Like, you know, I think that spearheaded battlefield tracking improvements through advanced data strategies. Probably he did something cool, just really hard for me to know what he did cool by reading that bullet. So sort of, you know, translating that into the XYZ format, I think would be valuable for this guy.
Sonny, what's your take?
All right. I mean, at least this is readable, right? Just goes to show that readability. I've said this second resume I've said it about now. At least like readability is at least 50% of the battle. So if I take the 3 seconds, 2 or 3 seconds to skim this resume, I can see, okay, well, infantry officer, 160th, went to Ranger school. Like, resume is poorly formatted, but I may talk to him just based off of like his experiences being fairly impressive. In the previous 2 resumes, there was just like so much dense text that even if there were impressive experiences in there, like I wouldn't bother looking for them. But at least this is readable, and that's like kind of half the battle. But still a poorly formatted resume.
JR.
Yeah, I mean, clearly he's got one thing on the 3rd page. It says expert infantryman badge 2021. This is just a complete. It's a decent, more readable resume than what we've seen, but you just need to format it better. This would be easily on one page. He throws he cleans up the formatting of this and throws like a little summary that ends with like, and this is why I want to do this role. This would be a great resume, but the formatting, like to me, would probably, to the point Sonny made earlier, binary. Most likely, unless somebody was in the military and understands how unique this dude is, they're probably not going to even give this guy a sniff, which is again so stupid, but that's where we're at.
Yeah.
Kevin.
A little surprised that like
Sorry.
you know,
Sonny, go ahead.
he's getting an MBA from UW and they're not unfucking his resume. I mean, that's a little bit surprising. Like, it's a good school.
Yeah. Yeah.
It actually was not UW. But it was a top 10 type of school, which I think goes to show not all schools are, you know, going to prepare you the same way. It was top 15-ish school, but yeah, you'd think, right?
Maybe hardly yet, but yeah, it's weird.
Like you said, it's too easy to make sure that you're not doing this wrong. Which by the way, before I go to you, Kevin, I am going to drop a kind of guide in here in the chat that we have on our website. Website's going to change a lot in the next month or two, but this guide, you know, if you want a template, you can download that there. But anyway, next, Kevin, what do you think of this?
Yeah, same as everybody else. The beautiful part of this is that like it definitely passed the eye test at the top. So it's not like I felt like there was something wrong with this resume and couldn't keep reading, which means I would have gotten to like some of the cool stuff that this person has done. And this is close. I think the one thing that sort of jumps out is like, you know, you got bullet points, which is awesome and it's concise, but like, what did you do there? And I see that there are some achievements that are listed, but going back to the XYZ format that was mentioned earlier, like stuff like that, like what were you know, what were you proud of while you were there? And can we get in on that a little bit? Like it doesn't have to be a wall of text, but tell us a little bit more so that some of that translation that I was talking about earlier from in a numeric standpoint or leadership standpoint sort of jumps out a little bit more. But at least I would have kept reading this one.
Great. Well, we'll move on to the resumes that I think work better. We'll start. We have 2. We have mine and I'm gonna open the other one first. We have mine and we have someone else that is one of my good friends. He just graduated from HBS. This was his resume, like his first semester at HBS, right? Very almost exactly the same as what he used to apply to HBS. He was an air defense officer, did 5 years, didn't have any like insane military stories, but was able to do, you know, quite a bit with his resume. So first take, Kevin, what do you think of this resume?
Yeah, this is This is a lot more about, this is way closer to what gets pushed forward every day out of our ATS to our hiring managers in terms of, background and format. Definitely would have kept reading. HBS is a good eye grabber for sure, but you know what I mean. And I think that this person does a really good job of explaining where they're coming from, using numbers to translate how what they did in the military might look from a private sector perspective, like I was talking about. A lot of metrics, a lot of percentages, numbers, at least giving someone who has no idea about the Army something that they can translate into as they look for roles for this person or consider them for the role they've applied for. So this is definitely way closer to the mark.
Yeah, Sonny.
I mean, this is the standard MBA business school format that we all get, right? There might be slight permutations that differ from school to school, but generally speaking, like they all look kind of like this. My resume looks like this. Why your resume looks like this? Like everyone who went to, a major well-known business school, their resume looks like this. And a great thing about this is like hiring managers, they're used to this format. This is the format they want to see. And they know exactly where everything is. So going back again to like the 2 to 3 seconds of the initial skim, sometimes even 1 to 2 second, like forget HBS and West Point, right? Obviously those are impressive brands, but if a resume is formatted like this, I immediately will give it a few more seconds to read it more, even if this guy went to like Rutgers and went to, I don't know, like University of Arizona for business school, right? Like I will read this resume because of that. And that's what you want to get with your resume. You want it to automatically like be eye pleasing to the recruiter or hiring manager. They know where everything is, and they're actually going to invest the additional 10 to 15 seconds in reading the rest of your resume. And this template, which I hope you guys share, is what will help you accomplish that.
Yeah. So notice the question someone asked, is this too much rack and stack numbers? So I guess to kind of put this, translate what you're saying, 2,600 person organization, 10 billion equipment. He had a 2 million, 1%, right? 2 active operations. In my opinion, especially for civilians, we look at this last one, right? And it says like program administrator, right? Deputy director. Like to me, I don't really know like what that means. I don't know what that means. I don't know, what is a program? Like you're not a program administrator. You're not a product manager or program manager. You're a platoon leader. So it's okay to say like, this is what that is. The way that I did mine, if you look, this was the one, this was mine, like first semester at Wharton, right? The way that I did mine was say like, that this was, or actually this is my first semester. The one that I did before this was, I said like rank 01, rank 02, rank 03. Civilians understand like, okay, the military is a hierarchy. You get promoted like that. They understand what that means. They don't really want to know like, were you the senior vice president? That doesn't make sense, right? But JR, I mean, we're now on mine. What's your thought? You see resumes like this.
I agree with Sonny's point that like, okay, this person can fog a mirror. Like they know that a resume needs the way a resume needs to look. This should be the structure, both yours, Wyatt, and your buddies. Wyatt, my feedback on yours is like you probably don't need your full address. That's like kind of wasted space. You could probably just do Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I don't think you need your zip code and your apartment number on there. The only thing I see missing from these two, honestly, that I like to see, and maybe it's me, I like a little summary at the top, like literally like 3 lines max of like, this is who I am, this is what I've done, and this is what I'm looking for. Um, other than and that's the thing, by the way, that you can customize for the person you're sending it to or the role you're applying to and make a couple tweaks on your bullets. But in terms of your question and the numbers, like, I'd have to read the specifics, but I've agreed from the beginning that like metrics are important. Increasing anytime you're measured against your peers, you should call that out if it was good. Anytime you've seen an improvement in a metric, you should call that out. So overall, I like it. I just think I'm a big fan of this of the summary up top, keeping the contact information simple. I don't like I'm not a fan of the personal stuff. But other than that, I think, hopefully you guys can share these two Wyatt with everybody as like templates, and everybody can kind of look like this. Like the structure is good. It's easy to read. It's easy on the eye. Like everybody who sees this, you feel like, oh, this is easy to read even before you read it.
Yeah, I'd say like, I mean, share the template, but what I wish you guys might have done, and I don't know if that's in the next two resumes, is that obviously like two people who graduated either top of their class of West Point and went to top 3 business schools, that's going to catch the eye, right? It would be good to see someone with a previously poor resume and then get transitioned into a pretty good resume afterwards without all these like flashy brands. That'll be because like I have helped people with a lot of resumes and they thought that their resume was beyond hope. And I sat down with them over a course of about an hour and a half. And like each time I'll say, okay, tell me what you did. Tell me what you did. Tell me what you did. What was the impact? Can you quantify this? And by pulling that stuff out of them, you can actually build some really, really good and quantifiable bullet points. And that's what you guys will have to do.
So here might be that's actually a really good call out, Sonny. We have had people do that. Like I had a Green Beret apply to actually the company that JP's at. Dude's resume was very bad. And we worked with it, and because I looked at it, and I was like, "This guy's a Green Beret, and he went to a good school, undergrad. Like, I need to tell him, like, you need to kind of like work on this, right?" But eventually, he like took my advice, and typical of like a Green Beret, within a day, like sent me back a resume that looked like something like this, and he's now employed, making a very good living. And his resume completely changed overnight. So it is with hope. Here's one that I really liked. This person just got hired for a really great role. So like the point that Sonny said, like this person, went to the University of Dayton, got their MBA, from not like HBS, but their resume looks, very good. Beat out someone from HBS actually for the job that they just got. And this was someone like, they've done a very good job, in my opinion. They've had they've had a more time in the civilian sector. I really wanted to highlight this one before I asked everyone else's opinion, because someone asked earlier, like, should you put your military experience? This is someone that obviously has been out of the military for a while. It's probably not as relevant. They have a lot of interesting stuff that they can put from their civilian sector, or civilian experience. They still down here put like, what they did in the military, and it's kind of eye-popping. Like, hey, I did all this like Brazilian market work stream. I constructed a revenue model. Also, like, I did 70 special ops raids against Taliban and Al-Qaeda targets. Like, whoever going to read that's going to be like, wow, that's cool. But that's my opinion. Sonny, we'll start with you. What do you think?
I'd personally give the military experience more space if I were him. I mean, he's got pretty rich experiences. Yeah, they're not as applicable, not as relevant, but you did 6 years. I mean, 2018 is not that long ago. I think it rates more than one bullet point. But that's just me. Besides that, it's a good resume.
JP, what do you think?
Team Sunny, but I think it also kind of depends on the person, right? Generally, those guys are a bit more of a quiet professional, and if someone reads that and that's what they want to talk about, right, that may steer the conversation in person much differently than if someone doesn't have that background or isn't interested in that thing. They can still digest this resume and check the box of like, I put it somewhere in the comments, but you got to remember, like, most of these people that are reading your resume, they just like auto bucket military into Rambo. And so unless you want to like effectively translate, no, I wasn't Rambo, I did, whatever, pick, pack, ship, supply, Amazon warehouse, or I was a pilot or whatever. it just depends on the connection you're trying to make with that hiring manager. So I agree. I would probably put maybe one or two more bullets from the Army experience because this dude's obviously like a pipe hitter, but it worked out for him. So it passes all the sniff tests. This dude would definitely get a phone call. And again, that's the main purpose of the resume, right? You're not trying to win the war on a one-page document. You're just trying to get a date to the dance.
Kevin, what's your take?
Yeah, this is the two good things, two good news stories about this resume is that because of the format, I would eventually get to the special operations stuff. But to Sonny and JP's point, like put it up front. Like and don't forget, like you can tweak your resume before you apply to a role. So don't feel like you get it once in stone. Yeah, it makes it a lot easier. But if you're applying to a place where this type of thing might land a little better to have former special operator up front, put it there. Like some places will really key in on it, or a recruiter who's looking for like all of my recruiters are looking for former military. So, you know, I know that it would land well with them as well. So don't feel like you can't tweak your resume to reflect what you're applying for, or you know, if you've got some insight into where you're applying and whether or not that language lands as well. Don't be afraid to do that. But you know, in the main, it probably should, as I sit here and say this out loud, it should probably be a little higher just because it's pretty cool and it's definitely speaks to the character and background in ways that a lot of the other stuff on the resume maybe won't.
JR.
Yeah, I'm Team Sonny. I mean, yes, he's been out of the military for a little while, but it's only been 6 years. And actually, if you actually dig into the details here, he hasn't really he hasn't lasted at a company for more than a year, except for his this one he's currently at. So I'd pull the soft stuff up below education, and I would add more bullets, and I would maybe maybe kill one of these like really short term roles. Like he was only at a couple of these companies for like less than 4 months. Like I don't know if I would include that. Like I'd go, 2012 to 2018, soft, and I would have a lot more detail there. Probably kill that first role he had.
Oh, sorry, JR. Muted.
JR, you got muted.
Who muted? Someone muted me. But other than that, I think the format alone gets this read and gets you, survive in advance, which is what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, hold on. I stop sharing.
I'll hit a couple of the questions in the chat while you're doing that, Wyatt.
Yeah.
What level of involvement does AI have? So like coming from an AI backed company and working in one now, certainly like top of funnel, there's like ATS, which is applicant tracking software, which is absolutely like being used or very prevalent. But I would point Kendall, I'd point you to a book called The Third Door, which is like a pretty good principle of like if you're trying to get into a building, right? There's the front door, there's the back door, and then generally there's a third door. And especially in the veteran community, like the third door is actually the highest expected value door, which is get someone who works at that company to vouch or verify you and immediately like I'm not saying don't apply to the role, get your name in the ATS, and then separately but equally email either the hiring manager or the person who is your connective tissue to that brand and say, hey, just want to let you know I dropped my resume into the ATS, but here's why I think I'm the man for this role. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then attach your resume. That's how you'll win. That's how you'll like bypass a lot of the ATS. And then I guess finally, like Creighton, I want to understand your question better on job titles and industry versus recruiters and ATS. I actually got a really good piece of advice when I was transitioning. As a loggy, I had like a maintenance role. And so I thought it would be cool to translate my job title because I was using a lot of, at the time, which was like leading edge Power BI stuff. I put data scientist, US Marine Corps when I got out. That was a really bad idea because really smart data scientists in the roles that I was applying for started double clicking on that and it falls apart very, very quickly. So I would say that, going back to if the titles experiences don't necessarily align, use the ones that you were given, and then speak to why it can be relevant or be useful in the actual application process.
All right, great. Okay. Wanted to just do, if hosts have to drop, that's fine. But if we could do like 20 minutes of breakout rooms, just to do a few questions, people can jump in and ask. If you have to drop and you're a host, no worries. And then from there, just feel free to just, let your breakout room know, that you do have to drop. But I'll make a breakout room for each of the hosts and people can ask them questions. You can drop now or in the future. But I think this has been great. I shared the resume template. Anyone that has that wants that template or mine or anyone else's, please feel free to, you all have my email because I sent you the invite. Email me, ask me for it. I'll shoot it over to you. And, happy to give that resource. Like Sonny said, most vets will be very helpful. So hold on. Right. And all right, open the rooms. Thanks to everyone that came. Feel free to jump into those rooms and talk to the hosts as long as they're willing. So thank you to the hosts. Great insights.